Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Vice shoot, which actually I am really very happy about. I've had people call me and tell me that they knew that a lot could go wrong with that, because I warned some of you that they could have made this out to be total Nutsville, and they didn't, and they could have a lot of things could have subtly hinted at that. Some of you may have thought that that's what that was with the psychiatrist or whatever, the mental health worker talking. Actually, that was good because it provides a fairness, that element of fairness to the Vice report. So I actually thought that that was good, and it kind of helped that that guy looked like the acting coach from The Freshman and didn't, I really wasn't too impressed with what he said, but, I wasn't too unimpressed. It was just, it didn't really affect what people are going to think. Now, I'll address that. A lot of people, you'll see under the comments, just a flood of angry, negative comments, just almost nothing but angry comments. Comments saying, mentally ill, talking about the fact that my parents were successful, but I'm homeless, and, talking about all these various things to put it down, to discredit it. And, I, of course, expect that. And I've addressed this many times when I've been talking about this gang stalking, which is that, if I didn't experience this firsthand, I would be skeptical. I'd be like, maybe this guy's short a few marbles a bag, okay? But it's one of those things where you have to experience it firsthand. And part of what a lot of people looking at this and being skeptical is that they have no idea of what this reality is, and without proof, that's one thing that this movie did not get into. When I talked to Sebastian about it, he mentioned that it was because when they were looking at it, it raised more questions than it answered. And it was a shorter, a piece that was going to be probably, initially it was going to be 8 minutes, and then he broadened it out to 18 minutes, which is pretty long for a Vice, special on this, because you don't want to lose people's attention. It gets too boring, gets too repetitive, you have to keep it kind of fresh, and there's a lot of decisions. Believe me, those guys when they flew out from New York to Los Angeles, where I am, they shot with me for 2 days, and believe me, they shot a lot of stuff that they didn't use. But that's how it goes. You just use a little bit of it, and then narrow it down to the best stuff and make the best show you can. And it's a lot of decisions go into what stays in and what gets cut. I think personally they did a great job. It went about as well as I could have possibly imagined it going. So and like I said, they could have subtly made us out to be loony bins, or the shoot could have just, the way it was pieced together, it could have gone a lot more wrong than it did. And I'm really happy that they didn't shy away from some of the stuff that I said, like it can't just be some little rogue group somewhere, because this is done with consent of law enforcement, which has to have consent of government, and it's huge. It's nationwide, it's worldwide, this program. But just here in America, you have to realize that they can't be using law enforcement vehicles to harass people. At least in my case, I know a lot of people don't have this thing where it's the police, but those are government paid vehicles, and you can see it on video if you look at my channel. This is amazing stuff. And like I said, I even bought a dash camera to record it. So, if you're looking at this for the first time, I would think that there was something wrong if you wouldn't be skeptical. But I would also say there's something wrong that if you judged before you even looked at any information. Now, I just want to address one of the things where people are upset about this, and you can kind of see it in their comments. The first thing they want to do is put us down. Okay, want to call us crazy, lunatics. The Vice is wasting their time, and they're just upset. I realize that when you don't understand something, number one, and number two, when it upsets your reality, because I know that sounds like I'm being condescending, or I'm trying to put a different label on this than it really is, but I'm trying to describe that this is actually real. Because I experienced it in myself when I was listening to somebody else recently. I'm like, gee, this is it's I can't understand what's happening, and therefore it feels like it's fake. It feels like it's stupid. But then I caught myself. I said, wait a minute. I need to investigate this more to see if there's something to it, just because I don't understand it, just because it clashes with some of my ideas of reality. Well, you can imagine when you post something like this, showing that, our own government must be involved in a harassment program to minimize, destroy, get people to commit suicide. These people that they identify as enemies for whatever reason, a lot of them, they have no idea why they were identified as an enemy. In my case, it was very clear why. Like I said, within 15 minutes of uploading my first reptilian shapeshifter movie to YouTube, then I kind of knew exactly what it was, and I got law enforcement vehicles lighting up behind me and zooming around me so much I bought a dash camera. So I knew what it was, and in that case I know. But a lot of targeted individuals, gang stalking victims, have no idea why. I think one of the thoughts that I have about that mysterious reasoning is not just that they offend somebody. Like, I know somebody who they did something, they moved against somebody, and I think that person that he moved against was under protection, and then he immediately came under the TI program. But it could also be that they are targeting people who themselves may not be light workers, or bringers of truth, or fighters for justice in this world of injustice, but they are a part of a soul group or a collective, a piece of that person who is a fighter, who is someone who's standing up and making a difference, fighting wherever they are, on other worlds, or somewhere else here, or in a different time. But when they attack that soul, they can hinder that oversoul's overall power, and that's just a theory. But friends, really, for those of you, for you fellow TIs out there, for you people that have experienced gang stalking, and especially those that have some spiritual beliefs, this is the fact that, first of all, that they're blocking my channel, right? I mean, I don't know if you've seen my movie about that, but I mean, I actually make movies that prove something, and they get like this little tiny views, 1,000 views, 800 views for my reptilian shape-shifting demonic distortion videos. And then you get movies on these other channels that are half the age of my channels, and their movies suck. They don't prove anything. It's a weird little blah, 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 blah. It's a transmission error, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and they got 20,000, 50,000, 300,000 views per movie a lot of times. Okay? Yeah. All right, and I know that there is a universal law of what's good is good, and people like it, and that means that the fact that my channel is getting so few views like that just doesn't quite make sense. Either that, or they are fudging the actual number of views that YouTube is showing. But as I was commenting on this other guy's channel, he's got 8 million subscribers. I forget his name offhand, but I was gonna, because he was talking about the whole adpocalypse thing, and the whole algorithm that they've applied to that, and he was a smart guy and a cool guy, but I knew that he hadn't learned what I had learned by being a dark truth poster. Okay, which, if you post dark truth on YouTube, is what I mentioned in the comments to him, you will get a new education into exactly what YouTube is. As a matter of fact, I would say that the only reason my channel is still up is because God is making sure. And this is an important point that a lot of people just don't get about gang stalking, and if I even mention it, I'll lose them right away. They don't want to hear anything about God. They don't want to hear anything about Jesus Christ and the scripture. They don't want to hear anything about demons. And they'll talk about Satanism until the cows come home. Satanism or satanic elements. But if you say there's a Satan, you won't hear nothing back from them ever again. Okay? Because they don't want to give glory to God. They don't want to acknowledge their creator. They hate that. They hate any mention of it. And I know, because I used to be a hater of any mention of it. My sister was a Christian long before I was, and I couldn't stand her speech about it. So I understand. But what I need to tell you, my fellow TIs, or anybody who's curious about this issue after seeing the Vice special, is that this whole thing is paranormal in nature, because the perpetrators of gang stalking are non-human. Our government is run by non-humans, and I'm talking about aliens. I'm talking about the Greys, the insectoids, the reptilians, who I happen to think the reptilians are the top of the heap. They are the ruling class of non-humans that are running our United States government and probably invented it from the very beginning, okay? It is a feeding trough for non-humans. It is a slave center, and it's all tied into, most importantly, and you will not understand this whole thing unless you realize that there is a God who is doing this ultimately. Not that he creates, not that he wants people to suffer or creates evil specifically for that, but it is a byproduct of this creation. And the real story here, that you just are not going to get what's going on, because you see, they tried to kill me. How easily they could douche me, friends. How freaking easy they could get me, okay? I mean, very easy. I'm out in the open day and night, as you know. I live in my RV. So I'm either in a coffee shop or out on the street or in my RV, okay? But they couldn't do it. They tried 3 times. It didn't work. When they sent somebody to kill me, actually eat up my flesh, Psalm 27:2, they stumbled and fell into the only gas line in the area, okay? Paul Walker from the Fast and Furious series asked the reptilians if it isn't true, and that's when they knew that they couldn't kill me. But my point is, that element tells us that it is not just a uncontrolled situation where anybody can do anything anytime and it's all out of control, it's all chaotic. No, it is under control. That's what you need to realize about gang stalking. That's what you need to realize about this whole situation that we're in. It's about what's going to happen to your soul, friends. I mean, it's really important to understand this. If you're suffering gang stalking, or if you're curious about this issue and you're wondering, how can they do this? Why would they do it? It won't make any sense to you unless you understand that you have somebody who hates you just for being human. Okay, so for my notes here on gang stalking, both others hearing about it as well as victims cannot believe it. Belief requires personal experience or video proving it. It is designed to look like paranoia. Even the mental health experts have names for the symptoms of gang stalking. People with no spiritual education cannot believe in demons which live in and control people. Okay, here's where we're getting to the demonic distortion aspect of it. What a lot of TIs are driven crazy by is that they can't believe how all these people can be coordinated doing this, okay? For instance, Billy was talking about people holding hands and walking by him. It's like it keeps happening. And by the way, I want to touch upon that. A lot of people don't have sympathy for these little tactics that people, that, you know, it sounds like so petty, like, oh, I've got better things to do than to worry about, you know, some guy like this one German guy contacted me and told me that people gang stalk him by coughing, going like that. And it sounds like nothing. It sounds like petty thing. Let me tell you something, okay, that you don't know, who have not experienced gang stalking, okay, or this kind of tactic used against you. It drives you nuts real fast, okay? You think that you're above it. You think you have the emotional fortitude for that to not bother you. It will bother you. It will get to you, friends. You think that that's not a big deal. It is. People commit suicide over it, okay? Wake up to that reality, okay? I'm asking you, open your mind. Realize that these little tactics, there was a guy that talked to me who said there was a key word that had to do with an injury that he had, and people would just keep saying that around him and couldn't, you know, it's like it just drives you nuts. You can't figure out why or how. It's demons living in people. It's intelligent, spiritual, whatever that means, but you can see it on video. Look at my channel. I got some really good visuals on that, okay? I mean, you can't deny it. It's right there, okay? These are creatures that live inside us, which the head of the creature could actually be this big. It doesn't make any sense to us in any sort of physical way. You have to open your mind to a reality that you could never believe before you begin to look at this and see it. I mean, it took me months of looking right at it to even believe what I was seeing, okay? Because when I took apart that movie, The Matrix, I knew I was seeing something unusual, but I couldn't realize that it's actually spirit entities, or these people were shapeshifters. They actually change into these beasts, which are apparently representative of all the animals that we know about, from insects to mammals to reptilians, whatever it is. There's a bipedal or other form, but they're sentient, they're high-tech wielding, and just tons of them. But the reason we don't see them, I think, is because our planet is protected from that with a shield, and we have that's what the Men in Black are for, the real Men in Black, which are these these evil bastards that they are protecting Satan's kingdom, so that humans don't wake up to the fact that we're being used terribly. But that's what this gang stalking is. It's a tactic. It's not just random animals doing this, friends, or just psychopaths. Okay, they are psychopaths on one level, but the fact of the matter is, this gang stalking is well planned out. They do it specifically with long-term contracts. The beings that are doing this have a more organized system of money and laws and everything than humans do, by far. Their cities are way more organized than ours, from all the reports that you see, and they are, and just by the results, they can think more clearly and more long term than humans can. That's what's hard to wrap your head around, and it's even harder to wrap your head around that whole belief thing, because unless you've seen it. I've heard Christians say, have you ever seen an alien? Well, we haven't seen 70% of the ocean floor. Okay, that doesn't mean there isn't stuff down there. And how much less do we know what's out there in the cosmos, and not just on other planets, but in other dimensions? So you just can't be simple in your thinking. You have to realize that this is a multi-dimensional, multi-element. There's time, even time travel is involved, and time's not what we think it is. It's not linear. It's traversable and so forth. So there's all kinds of stuff going on, and you just have to not close your mind. Don't be rigid in your thinking. Be fluid, like Bruce Lee said. Be like water. Okay, that's what you got to be in order to not get defeated by this whole thing, because that's part of what drives T.I.'s crazy, is that he just can't believe it, and they're trying to put a simple notion on it, like unfortunately Billy from the Vice special thinks that it's a Christian group that is targeting him because he's gay. Okay, and first of all, he doesn't know Christian, that a real Jesus Christ Bible believing Christian would never be part of gang stalking, no matter what, unless maybe his family was held hostage. But even then, a true Christian isn't going to do anything like that. I'm not saying they aren't using fronts. I'm not saying they aren't using the Christian name. That could be. So maybe that's what he's referring to. But as far as a real Christian goes, they're not going to be involved with gang stalking no matter what. But they will and can and do use the Christian name and Christian elements in the Bible and everything, and quoting out of it, and religious sounding things, because that's another hallmark of Satan's kingdom, by the way, friends, and it's a really important element. He uses like guilt trips and morality. Yes, you can't believe how they could do it, but they even talk about that. You get Bill Clinton coming up and saying, yes, if you just work hard and play by the rules, you'll be doing a good job. You're a good American. Yeah, and that guy's like so evil you can't believe it. And Hillary is 10 times as bad as he is. So and I voted for him, by the way. And I didn't know any of this. That's how asleep I was. I even voted for Barack Obama, to my shame. I've admitted that fully, but I think I've made up for it a little bit with my special Obama Vampirana. Check it out on my YouTube channel. Okay, so even fellow TIs get angry at me if I mention this thing about demons, because again, they don't want to believe in any spiritual element, because if you even go there, then you might have to consider possibly that there's a God, and even more unpleasant, that whole heaven and hell thing. Oh man, we don't want to hear about that whole, don't tell me about hell. Nothing makes me more angry than people mentioning hell. Okay, I know. My sister mentioned it to me, and it just drove me nuts. I hated that idea. But guess what, man? I got a little bit of bad news. It's real. And actually, it's good news, because if you learn about that, then you understand there's a better place. There's an opposite better place called heaven, okay? And you can go there, okay? God gives us the opportunity, and that opportunity is through believing in the work of Jesus Christ on the cross. That's why when you see the cross, what that is, it's a symbol of the sacrifice that he made, so that any who want to come to God, okay, and by the way, he is the only way to come to God. Do not be fooled, friends. I don't mean to put down anybody from any other nations that believe strongly in their religious beliefs, but you have to understand there is one creator of the universe, and he's provided one way for you to know him and be saved and go to heaven, where he promises very specifically in his word that there shall be no more pain, no more sorrow, and even no more death. And he says it right there in his word, so if it isn't true, we can go up to him and say, "Excuse me, sir, Mr. God, this isn't true." So it's got to be true. And if you look at the whole of Scripture, you'll see, friends, it is not BS. It's the real thing. I've been studying it for 27 years, and I'm telling you, it is the real thing, and I have experienced God in my life. If you think we're all a bunch of delusional religious idiots, and they're fooled by alien tech or whatever, making these illusions or whatnot, I understand. But if you saw what I saw and what a lot of people have seen, through God working privately in your life, because we have to live by faith. Before we come to faith, we have to live in the world. As the scripture says, we had our conversation with Satan. You're living in one of two spirits, friends. I know this sounds totally foreign to you and offensive, but the fact of the matter is that you get one of two spirits that we live under, that dwell in us, that rule in our lives, and you make a choice, okay? And if you really want to wake up, if you really, you got all these people and they say all kinds of great information. Laura Eisenhower talks about the chakras, and we need to open up our DNA strands to 12 so that we can come to a higher consciousness and all this stuff. But and some of that stuff, there may be some truth to that. I'm not saying, again, I don't know, but I know that overall, someone like that's missing the picture, okay? All these great speakers, Carrie Cassidy, and all these people talking about all this stuff, but they're not talking about the one thing that you need to do in order to be saved and be a friend of God, and that is believe in Jesus Christ on the cross for your sin. The intended effect of gang stalking, emotionally upsetting the victim, has the intended result of making the person seem irrational. Being upset interferes with the victim's ability to think clearly, because gang stalking strategy uses emotional buildup of fear, anger, frustration, despair to hinder any efforts made by the victim to fight gang stalking. So this is one of the key components of gang stalking, which is, you saw it from Billy there. I didn't get too emotional, but you could really, and I really am glad that they showed that. That's another thing I was really happy about the Vice shoot, is that when they showed Billy crying like that, and by the way, I think no less of him. Believe me, that is an understatement of how upset this could make you. Now, I had a little bit of an advantage, because I'm sticking a video camera in these people's faces, and I knew it was something that I did and continue to do. And by the way, the gang stalking won't stop for me. The rumor is, and I believe it's true, although some people have claimed that they got rid of it, and I even met some people, or somebody told me that that because of what they were doing, and then they stopped doing it, like the exposure work with the reptilians that I was doing, and he said that the pressure was just too much, and indicating that it had stopped when he had quit that. But I think for a lot of TIs, or most of them, almost universally, they keep it up until you die. And there's people who are dead and gone now who were TIs, okay, and they came before us, but no one ever knew their story, because no one could ever believe it. You heard some of those women on the Vice show saying, "Oh, I'll tell my kids, or I'll tell anybody," and other people say they lost all their friends. They don't want to even go near that person because they're considered nuts. They're considered crazy. And the other problem with this whole thing is that two things having to do with real mental illness or mental problems. Number one is that this could actually drive somebody crazy to the point where they're misidentifying stalking elements. They become so frazzled that they do in fact go mad, and then they lose their mental cohesion. And then you have other people who are already insane, just already nuts, and they may even kind of glom on to this issue because they're living in this world of negativity and paranoia, and they're like, oh yeah, it's gang stalking, yeah, and I'm going to join on to that whole group that looks like it's paranoia, and even that could be actors, but I'm talking about real crazy people in this case. And so that further discredits the whole thing, and people are like, well, this is clearly nuts because you see these nut people talking about it. So this whole strategy of destroying people with this covert harassment that they can keep from being too provable, although I think I've pretty solidly proved it at my channel, but other people may argue, and even if you go to court and they the final verdict is not guilty for the alleged gang stalkers or the U.S. government, whoever's behind it, that still doesn't prove anything. The truth is with God. That's why you need to have the ultimate source. You need to have the ultimate authority in your life, knowing about God, doing something about God, because He is the final judge, and nothing is more important. That's what all these gang stalkers don't understand, and people that are just mindlessly demonically controlled, is that hell is waiting. People are pouring like sand down into hell as we speak, and it's no joke. Don't be fooled, friends, by songs making it sound cool like AC/DC. I'm on the highway to hell. Yeah, that's a great song and everything, but you know what? I wouldn't even joke about that. Do a little research. Go online, type in Hell Witness on YouTube, and then ask yourself, are they all lying or delusional? And then when you start to get the picture of these matching elements about hell, oh man, you don't want to go there. It's no joke. It's even beyond not funny. It's just so horrible that it's just unimaginable what's happening. But it's there. The Scripture says that it's actually in the earth. Though they dig into hell, the Scripture says, meaning it's down there. That's probably what Buzz Aldrin saw and gave him a heart attack. See, when he went up there to Antarctica, some of these elements probably came up from hell through that opening, and they freaked him out. And that's why he said, if these things, he said something to the effect of, we're all doomed if these things come up. The enemy is well aware of such mistakes, such as misidentifying gang stalking elements, and will jump on top of that. He'll use it against that person right away, saying, yeah, look at you, this crazy person. Demonically controlled people are given the information which Satan knows, and will have them, make comments or say anything to discredit that person. I have experienced where there is information that really only I knew about, or it was, it would take, you would have to be looking at it from my perspective to really see it. And then I see these people speaking against me and using that information, making me realize that there is this universal consciousness of Satan living in us through these demons and through that whole network, and they know any mistakes or sins that you make. And if you see, this is one of the things, sin is one of those things that Satan can use against you, your own crimes, your own things that you're doing wrong. And everybody has sin. Everybody has things that they're not perfect about. So this is one of the like, Satan just hits that like a nail. It just takes a hammer to you, because that is where you're weak. That's where you're vulnerable. He uses that moral component to give you this moral lecture. Okay, believe it or not, this is how he operates. This is what he is. He uses morality as though it's something that he has the authority to use, which is the devil. PR or politics and popular opinion are a huge element in the targeting program, for which there is an army of demon-controlled humans who they know hate the truth and hate Satan's enemies, whether they're Christians or not. If you piss off Satan, you're going to be a target. They show up on platforms like YouTube and voice every negative opinion about that person, to the extent even open-minded people want to avoid the negative stigma associated with these people. The press massively, and you know, book authors, movie makers, they all work for Satan. Okay, and those who have investigated this, I know it sounds, you know, like paranoid. Oh, everything's Satan, but it's true. It really is. It's a universal spirit. That's how they slandered. By the way, that whole story. I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there once again. That whole story about Adolf Hitler, the Nazis in Germany. When you hear these New Age people talking about Hitler and the Nazis as these totally evil bad guys, you don't know history, and you keep repeating the same lie that the enemy has used against that decent man, Adolf Hitler, and his very decent, very good as a people, the German people, to try to liberate their country from the tyranny of the, what do you call them, these Talmudic Jews, world banking. It's really Satan, in my opinion, Satan working through these Talmudic Jews, world banking enslavement that we're all under now, so they can tell these great big huge lies. That's an example of a grand scale lie, but they do that to individual gang stalk victims. They make them out to be the criminals. They are working so hard to make me out to be the bad guy. Oh, that's part of why they do the whole thing with police and police helicopters and the whole narrative with police, because you're a criminal about to, and security. Oh, the demon-controlled security is rampant. You can see that at my channel. The demon-controlled security. So you're a security threat. You're about to break the law. You're the bad guy. You're the criminal. You know, I was just thinking that we need to file a lawsuit against Google, YouTube, acknowledging the fact that YouTube has basically become the sole video platform, and as such, it is a free speech issue that they can control, whether through algorithm or, you know, that's what they're telling us, but, you know, who knows what it could be, to censor people that say things that they think are inappropriate, even though they follow community guidelines, such as, you know, not showing, you know, excessive violence like people's heads being ripped off, or you know, sexual items. And we need to, I think we need to sue over that, because basically, you know, it represents a monopoly over the most usable, most credible, most important element of presentation of information that there is currently, because video is kind of hard to lie. When you see somebody on video, it's, you know, that person is right there, you can see their face, or, you know, and also the and things having to do with evidence. And so video is like the main thing now, the main communications, and they have shown now that they have evil control. Even people that love YouTube and owe their living to it and everything, as this one guy was saying, you know, they have shown that they are behaving in a very strange way that doesn't give people confidence that they are truly being an open, free speech platform. Now I'm going to continue here in gang stalking. Targeting is designed to isolate the victim, stripping them of family or friends that will help them. This is what's really hard to understand about gang stalking, because, you know, part of me is thinking, yeah, you know, it's just because of me. It's just, you know, I'm acting like a jerk, and that's why, or I'm selfish, or something else, and you know, and there's a million reasons why people don't get along. But I've said this before, and I'll say it again. What I've realized is that Satan, working even in me and in other people, coordinated, will create a conflict between people, so that as to destroy that relationship, and those people don't want to deal with each other anymore. And there you go, right there. There's an isolation tactic that works. The more you minimize somebody to keep them away from friends that'll help them, friends or family or something, and same thing with you know, the minimizing somebody financially. That's the more power that they can have to destroy people. Victims and interested investigators alike cannot believe the comprehensive nature of gang stalking to follow any person, any place, seamlessly, giving the victim nowhere but possibly a remote wilderness area to hide. So this again is another element that people can't believe when they hear this whole story about gang stalking. Is how can it follow you from state to state or even from country to country seamlessly with doing the same things over and over, like the German guy or the guy with the keyword that people say. It's because the demonic network is universal. These creatures living in us, living in me, I've shown they're living in me. They can communicate instantly across any distance. I mean, they think, we think the internet's cool. They can communicate these things instantly. There's nowhere. These people talking about, they're tracking people by, implants and all that stuff. I'm not saying they're not using all this technology and stuff as well, but if you understand the power of the demonic realm, you realize they don't need tracking devices. They don't need to track your phone. People talking about, oh, is your phone on? Blah, blah, blah. They know exactly where you are if you're standing there naked and with no implants at all. Okay? They can follow you, and they know, not only that, they know your thoughts as well. Okay? That's what's really hard to believe. I realize people looking at this are going to say, you're nuts. Okay, this is what you've imagined in your mind. No, I have tested it. I have proven it. They do these buzzings, which are aircrafts flying overhead low, and in order to, and that's the tactic they use on me. And by the way, I just want to realize about that real quick is that they use different tactics, but the same thing over and over and over again on a certain person. They use similar tactics, but not on too many, so that like everybody won't be coming out and saying, I'm suffering from helicopters flying overhead, or I'm suffering from people using a certain code word. What they do is they'll choose your lifelong torture element, and then they'll continue to use it over and over and over again. Okay. So, but you're not going to understand this unless you understand there's a demonic network, okay? Instantaneously, these intelligent, high-tech wielding beings that actually live in us and around us, and this whole thing. There's principalities, there's all these spirits. We're living in a soup of spiritual beings, and they even live in us, and I've experienced myself being controlled to say that keyword. I was with that one gang stalk victim, and I remember that I said this keyword that is a harassment issue word for him. And I remember seeing his face like just pausing, because he really wanted to talk to me, because he knew he was happy about me, coming on and speaking clearly about gang stalking. But I could see his pause, and when I reflected back on that situation, I realized, oh my God, I had been used to gang stalk him. And now this gets into a whole realm of paranoia, and I think people do misidentify things. But now, when somebody says something fantastic, like this one guy was coming on YouTube and he was talking about how pigeons were harassing him, and I'm like, oh, okay, this guy's definitely gone too far off. That he's now imagining that birds are. But now that I have experienced the high weirdness of some of this stuff, that just is so weird. See, they love it to drive you crazy with that stuff. It's just so weird. So there's just no way they could do this. It's so impossible. And you're going nuts. You're starting to imagine all kinds of words. But before I judge, I'm just gonna reserve judgment and say, okay, because when that guy said that about the pigeons, I'm like, oh, come on. But now I'm kind of like, oh, wait, because I can see they can use animals. Okay, they can use somebody from way far away to make some noise that you keep hearing over and over again. So it's so weird. I realize people can be paranoid, people can imagine things, but who knows? Maybe all these people that we've heard about going nuts throughout history, maybe a lot of them, if not maybe even all of them, are actually experiencing demonic torture, which is we now call gang stalking or targeting. Anger about disbelief of others further isolates the person, making positive relationships much harder. So the anger of people not being able to believe you, it just starts to, because just to say you want, you have a relationship with somebody, or you want to have a relationship with somebody, And but you can't, over and over again, you can't, you just can't even voice any of this horrific, unbelievable torture that's, if you're like me, you've realized that it has to be done by our government, complete. It can't be some fraction group, it's some rogue group working out of the NSA. Yeah, the CIA is looking into it, the FBI knows something about it, but then there's corrupt element, it's some rogue. They're unified. That's what you got to realize about this. They can't run all this without, some sort of, and then they're talking about, some German Nazis are infiltrated, it's this rogue group, and they're starting to get out of control. And, friends, they can't do all this unless it's completely unified under a central government, and that government is a giant, horned, man-eating reptile currently known as Satan or Lucifer. TIs without knowledge of the Bible, God, Satan, and the story playing out cannot believe they have a vicious enemy that hates them just for being human. So that right there, see, is just too wild and weird for somebody who doesn't realize that there is that whole story of the battle between heaven and hell, between God and Satan, and the angels and the fallen angels, is real, and if you don't realize the fantastic element of that, you're just going to be lost in terms of what's really going on. You're going to misidentify things. You're going to talk about, aliens. You're going to talk about implants. You're going to talk about high tech, but you don't realize what the real power behind all this is. It's not just some smoke and mirrors, hocus pocus, weird, spiritual, idiotic stuff that a bunch of people in church going are raving about. Okay, this is real stuff. And if you want proof, again, of these spiritual beings, look at my channel. Look at the reptilian, demonic distortion movies, and just ask yourself, just use a little common sense, okay? Because you may have some idiots with his head so far up his ass that he'll even come on and say, well, I have to know what situation you were in, and you can't see the claws and the fangs and the discoloration and the horns growing out of people's heads. And, you can see it. You can see it's not a video error. Okay, talking a little bit about video, an example of the difficulty with getting video evidence is that a single event can appear ordinary, okay? So if somebody is filming something, like if I'm just filming a helicopter flying by, it's easy for people just to say, well, you're just, there's lots of air traffic in LA, you're just paranoid, and so you're just pointing up your camera. They don't know. See, without living my life, without seeing it on a daily basis, you can't realize what it is. You can't feel what it's like when they're projecting this at you, okay? You know it, you're aware, because they use the demons in you to make you aware that it's a gang stalking incident, and it makes you more angry, more upset, more fearful, whatever it is they want to get you to emotionally destabilize you, for you to eventually, hopefully, as a lot of people have pointed out with this whole gang stalking thing, commit suicide. Okay, they want to get rid of you. They're trying to destroy you. They're trying to minimize you. It's not some experiment. They're trying to destroy you. Okay, I wrote further, even if a targeted person could have a camera team follow them around, the perpetrators are well aware of such developments and will withdraw. As I can tell you firsthand, when the Vice team came over and to shoot with me in LA for 2 days, I hardly got any buzzing. However, when I was with another TI, they buzzed us like the guy that was with me who came over was like, man, you were kidding about all this stuff.
And I remember seeing these demons, and I kept saying, where am I? Let me go. They wouldn't say nothing to me, but they'll look at me and they'll laugh. Before I go forward, I'm not saying this to scare you guys. I'm not here to scare anybody. I'm just telling you, this is the true what happens after death. I seen all this. I seen rivers of fire. People are burning. There's been people burning there for many, many, many years, hundreds of years. And I start seeing a lot of crosses and fire all over the place. And you see demons poking their privates with these swords, poking their privates all the way in and coming out through their chests in different direction. But they start in through their privates. Those were the people that had that were changed up, that they were in that curse, that they could not get out of pornography, masturbation, sexual desires that DNA will bring to them. And let me tell you something that demons will tell them, will speak in there. Demons call us, we're stupid humans. That's the way they talk. That's the way they think of us. That we're stupid because we're so dumb to listen to every little lie. In our carnal minds, we think that, oh, well, I can fight them off. I can run from them. No, there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. And you cannot fight these things. They're 10 times bigger than you, 10 times stronger than you.
If you're watching this, it's not too late. Say this prayer now. Father in heaven, save my soul by the work of your Son Jesus on the cross, and show me your pure words in the authorized King James Bible.